All right, this is Scarlett and Jay with another dose of convention tea. And we're here to talk about Comic Con Special Edition.
Yeah, this was the San Diego Comic-Con event that they delayed till November as a way of allowing people to go inside the convention center, meet some of their favorite people, and do some fun things.
So this is Comic Con in the fall/winter time because we have like no seasons in Southern California. So instead of like dealing with like the heat in July, it's like okay, and now like we're cooling down in November. This took place Thanksgiving weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, have dinner with friends and family, get to the con, have some fun. Now, Comic Con Special Edition. Well, let's just get a few things out of the way first. So we'd like to thank our sponsors, Magic Candle Company.
In case you want candles that are themed after some of the most memorable rides at Universal and Disney, you can go and use our coupon code to get a 15% discount off of the candle. It is EAT15, and there's plenty of things. It makes a great Christmas gift, especially if you have a ride or favorite theme park scent that some member of your family would enjoy.
And also, you can shop at YEMAC Sweaters. You can use my code YEMAC-Dame Asmal to get 40% off on their web store. So check them out if you're looking for a present or if you just need like a coat to just be cozy with. Highly recommend them. I wear them, so yeah. All right, Scholar Rhapsody, in case this is the first time you're tuning into a Scholar Rhapsody production, we've been covering conventions since the early 2000s. I started this whole operation in my college dorm, just like, hey, I want to blog about conventions, I want to talk about conventions, I want to review conventions. So this is just a hobby that we do here, and this is my first San Diego Comic-Con since 2008, and this is like your first ever San Diego Comic-Con period.
Yeah, outside of doing some of the like weird outside stuff they have where they'd have like the standees and things like that, this is the first time actually going in there and doing stuff. And I ran a panel because yes, I am that awesome.
Yeah, so the reason why we went to San Diego Comic-Con Special Edition is we were invited to do panels at their event. I actually got the email while on the way to Otakon. I was just over in our layover in Dallas. I was like, hey, we got an invite to do a panel at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm like, I can't say no to that.
Mm-hmm.
So we submitted we got Final Fantasy, got the green light. And then, and now we're here. So Comic-Con Special Edition, the numbers have not really been posted, but they anticipated a week before that there would be around 40 to 50,000 folks coming into downtown San Diego to that legendary convention center. Did you think it felt like around 40 to 50K?
No, that feels high. I feel it'd be maybe 30 to 40. I might even be overestimating it a little bit, but like there was enough to get my claustrophobia kicking in a couple times. So I'm not going to go and say it was empty because that's not at all the case. And there's a lot of area to cover. That's a large dealer hall. There's a lot of panel rooms. There's a whole bunch. There was some stuff happening on the outside zone. So, I'm sure people got spread out a little bit more, but it's not the 50,000 feels way too high for me.
Yeah, and I also felt that, like, at San Diego Comic-Con, I think this is also, like, a number, like, some people might show up for a day, and this might be just kind of like an overall number, but at no point it felt like, even Otakon this year, like, it was very spread out. A lot of people were going to panels, and then panel rooms, they were, like, there was a few exceptions to the rule, but you're, like, your standard XYZ and comics kind of a panel, kind of like, okay, maybe half the room, and you could still easily find a seat at a lot of these panels.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go into the meat of things. So San Diego Comic-Con Special Edition. A lot of people are saying that Comic-Con Special Edition felt like a 90s/early 2000s Comic-Con. I know you haven't attended a prior San Diego Comic-Con, but I attended Comic-Con in 2002. And this is way before the Hall H Man. This is way before like the Twihards took over San Diego Comic-Con. And it was very much a bare bones comic book convention. Yeah, you had celebrities running around. You could like meet Weird Al Yankovic. You could like chit chat with Monkey Punch, and he'll talk about how much he loves The Simpsons. And Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were just saying, like, just after the event, like, yeah, it felt like 90s, early 2000s Comic Con. There wasn't any huge Hall H announcements or kerfluffles. There wasn't a lot of much of a Hollywood presence. If anything, there was a larger anime and Asian media presence.
A huge anime presence there for sure.
Hall H was used as the registration hall.
Yeah, I'm trying to think there. I mean, they did have some actors and stuff whose names people would recognize, but no, it's not the same level of having all the A-list people show up to say, hey, I'm going to be a superhero next year. Watch my movie.
Yeah, there was like no like lining up at midnight. There was a complete absence of Hollywood, and I think, just in my opinion, I kind of prefer it this way, really.
I agree. I don't know how San Diego Comic-Con became the movie Comic-Con. It probably was a gradual thing, because when you had like Iron Man and stuff, I mean, what better place to announce it than at the most populous, or one of the most populous Comic-Cons of the time. And then as things had gone, the other studios just kept going and going and going. And as genre fiction became a major Hollywood moneymaker, it's just where everyone showed up. And then you get weird stuff where you get like Twilight showing up there, or like Fast and Furious, and you're like, yeah, okay.
It's like, wait, what does this have to do with comics?
Yeah, because the superheroes, I can buy that, and even to an extent, stuff like, say, the Terminator or what have you, feels adjacent enough, because it's, time travel and dark future with robots. Like, I get that the sci-fi aspect of things, we've had those stories in comics. We've had dark future with robots, we've had time travel, so makes more sense versus like, vampire love story doesn't really. I know there are probably vampire love story comics. In fact, I can guarantee it. I'm fairly certain there's vampire love story mangas. But when you think of genre fiction, you don't think vampire love story so much as you think future robots trying to enslave humanity or something.
In the future, there will be robots. But yeah, like, overall, the vibe of Comic-Con special editions, like, you had, like, families coming in. Like, at no point I felt, like, in a chokehold in any part of the dealer's hall or artist alley. Like, yeah, it was busy, but at one point you never felt like that AX level of, like, just being sardined in.
No, it still got to me a little bit, but no, it's not what what I would have been used to pre-pandemic.
All right, so preparing for the convention. So likewise, we had to just kind of update our slides for the Final Fantasy panel. And also, to our surprise, we're obviously, if you've been following us for a while, you know that we're huge fans of Gundam. And when we found out there would be a Gundam-based pop-up store, what was your reaction?
I was like, okay, well, we need to do that day one because all the good stuff's going to sell out. And then it made it more complicated because there was also a different pop-up store also in San Diego itself. So
it's like in their Japantown kind of zone.
And so there are two different ones going on at the same time. And after looking at the exclusives for one of them, I was like, well, I'm just glad I did the Comic-Con one. I'm skipping the other one. It's not like, oh, I'm glad I skipped it, but I'm like, I probably didn't miss out on anything major.
And even so, I was kind of preparing, okay, there's going to be a Gundam-based pop-up store. I want to, wear Sailor Moss. So here's a photo of me, styling my Sailor Moss wig. Shout out to my friend Diana for giving me tips on how to, make the hair more, 70s foofy. And, of course, there's, my glass of wine as I'm trying to style while watching Jingle All the Way.
Again, always best to do precision work while drinking alcohol.
Hey, it didn't turn out that bad.
I know. Nor did the gunpla I built last night while drinking a beer.
All right, so we stayed at Town and Country, and this is kind of away from downtown, more towards Mission Valley, closer to SeaWorld. I just had a great experience staying at Town and Country for the past couple times I stayed here. In fact, the last Comic-Con I attended, we stayed at Town and Country back in 2008, and back then it had a very different aesthetic. The aesthetic was Victorian. We even had a creepy doll portrait staring back at one of the beds.
Nope. Nope.
And
putting a jacket over that.
It's right across from the Jolly Trolley. We didn't use a trolley. We ended up using the uber helpful Uber. But hotels didn't really sell out that fast. The only reason why I saw Town and Country on the things, okay, it has an affordable rate. I kind of liked staying at this hotel. I had a great experience. So yeah, Town and Country. But I did find out from a couple of my friends that some of the downtown hotels, including the Hilton Gas Lamp, didn't sell out either. So I'm like, okay, so it's no no Hunger Games to get hotels, no Hunger Games to get a badge. I mean, if you had your 150, you could get a 3-day badge. But I do appreciate that. Like, okay, we got a pretty nice hotel. I really like the hotel aesthetics. Has this very 1950s retro kind of travel kind of vibe. If you've been to Cars Land out in Disney, kind of has that kind of retro kind of vibe.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like here you have like you got the palm trees. Like even when you enter in our hotel room, it has like this mid-century vibe. The lobby is like this Incredibles kind of living room kind of aesthetic, and I'm like, oh, I just wish I had photographer friends so we can do some photo shoots here. But that's
I'm sure the
okay.
staff would have appreciated that.
No, they appreciate the free publicity.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it had the large pool in the courtyard, nicely lit everything.
Easy to find parking. I could like park
yeah.
like right close to our hotel room, no problem, and loading our stuff like in and out was no issue. But overall, I really like staying here. But I think next time around, we'll probably just take the train and just maybe stay at Hilton Gaslamp should Comic-Con ever have like a scaled down version of their event in San Diego, because I don't think I'm mentally ready to like return to the larger Hollywood driven San Diego Comic-Con of what it's become.
Well, that, and we don't know what even to expect with that, because
this also falls around the same time as Otakon, and I like Otakon.
I meant more the point of things are kind of slowing down a bit in terms of production. At least it feels like that way to me. So you never know what's going to happen. And we still don't know how many people are going to be wanting to go to cons in 2022. But if they asked me to do a panel there with that level of audience, I would probably have the exact same stomach problems I had prior to. But I definitely would probably have to say yes, because that would be the largest audience I've ever had in my life. Because Expo wouldn't let me do panels because of that one time.
All right, Town
they
and
know
Country.
What they did.
What I also like about Town and Country that was really unique is you had a whiteboard next to the mirror. So I just kept posted like just reminders. You're like, yeah, make sure you have your badge, make sure you have a song in your heart, and make sure you have your room key, etc. So yeah,
helpful if you have a group.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's 2 people, it's not so much.
Because I remember like there's just like there was that like one time. We used to carpool with a buddy of ours, and he would always forget like that one thing, and we would like have to drive back.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so day one, I think for day one we just kind of like arrived. We drove in from Orange County to San Diego, checked into our hotel, and we kind of got around the con area like around like 3 or 4 o'clock, and it was pretty chill. Like there wasn't too many people. So for day one, we went in, picked up our badges, showed proof of vaccine. Walked right into Hall H, picked up everything we needed, got the program guide, got us a Comic-Con special edition pin, and then we just walked right into the dealer's hall, and like the first thing we did was check out the Gundam base.
Yeah, we made sure to just kind of let's get in line before it gets crazy, and let's just do it now. And it took us a little while to kind of find out where it was, but once we found the line, it was no big deal. I had a cool person in line with us who was I guess veteran's the right word, Navy dude. He was super cool. We were just talking about giant robots and stuff like that, and telling him about my giant robot history panel and what have you. He's like, are you doing that here? And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that here. I wish, but let's just one step at a time when it comes to Comic-Con. And
the line was relatively short to get into the Gundam base booth here, but from my observation, I think a lot of people were checking out booths to see if they can get some free swag there, because just coming from a background of just doing like a lot of these larger expo themed shows, like example PAX East, people will like just go to like the larger booths to just kind of come in like, hey, do they have any free stickers, like any freebies?
I used to do that at Expo.
Mm-hmm.
Back when Expo was Expo.
And I felt I know I mentioned earlier, like, yeah, Comic-Con just lacked that Hollywood presence, but when I think of, like, booths that really attracted, like, a lot of people coming in, if I had to think of a booth that had, like, an attracting icon, it would have been the Gundam base, because this booth just really stood out. And I'm not saying this because we're fans of Gundam, but, like, it was just, like, just drawing people just, like, right into the center of the dealer's hall.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Is one, in front of it, it had, of course, the statue of the RX-78. In addition, on the sides, it would have statues of some of the other units and what have you, including the Wing Gundam.
So when we say anime, like, have, like, this overall presence...
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
this was like right by Bluefin. This was right by Bandai Namco. This is right with like some other video game booths. This was right by like a manga graphic novel, independent comic type thing. It had like a huge tree. Like I wasn't familiar with it, but I had friends who are familiar with it. Forgot what the title was, but manga and anime had a major presence in the dealer's hall when it came to like your star booths. And inside here, you can see like what they had at the Gundam base, and just it was a tiny little pop up, but you came home with a couple of awesome things.
Yeah, ended up grabbing the RX-78 Worldwide Expo Japan booth exclusive one. So since I didn't go to Dubai back in like 2020 or 2019, whenever that event occurred, I was able to get it. It's a recolor of the 78, but it has all the event-related stuff on it, and it would be kind of cool, and only a handful of people ever got one. The RX-78-3 special version they only have at the Gundam base in Japan, which is the newest edition of it, and finding a 78-3 is incredibly difficult. They're not particularly common kits. I ended up grabbing the Black TriStar Haro, but in the clear version, because when I saw it in the case and how like reflective it was, I was like, ooh, I like how reflective that is. It's not like a flat black. The clearness makes it all shiny, and so I got it because it's shiny.
Yeah, I think I was kind of sad that Gundam didn't have like an official panel at Comic-Con. I would have loved to have an official Gundam panel. Like, oh yeah, we're going to build a Gundam in San Diego, which would be awesome.
You have to put it in the right place and have enough protection because...
I mean, the Navy's right there.
I understand that, but you also have, like, hobos and stuff like that who could just go and turn a Gundam statue into their new home.
I mean, better San Diego than downtown Los Angeles.
Well, yes, I'll give you that, but I'd rather it be in a place where, no one's going to graffiti it, like a theme park or something like that.
Okay, also, again, like, just kind of going back to the huge anime presence. Like, this is, like, one of the booths that, like, just was showing off Demon Slayer figures. So I'm like, I want the entire Hashira crew.
I want to point out something else. I wasn't even the most crazy person when it came to buying stuff at the Gundam base, because we saw plenty of people who had like the stereotypical like box, like almost covering their face, like piles. Like I saw 2 or 3 people like that, and I'm like, okay, that's a bit extreme. I'm at the point of like, okay, I'm gonna get a couple of these hard to find Gundams, like a Haro, and then we got some face masks, like, we didn't go overboard with everything. And then I saw people who totally were, and I was like, whoa, okay, I feel better about my spending habits. But yes, Demon Slayer had a lot of stuff there, and a lot of cosplayers for that matter.
Yeah, when we think about cosplayers at San Diego Comic-Con, if I had to pick the top 3 fandoms represented via cosplay at Comic-Con,
I agree.
All right, Demon Slayer, Squid Game, Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Specifically Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, a lot of MCU stuff going down.
I mean, I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's just kind of cool just walking around, running into our friends, because we didn't know, like, a lot of our friends, like, who would be going down to Comic-Con Special Edition, because, like, it's Thanksgiving weekend. We kind of don't expect a lot of folks to roll up for a convention on Thanksgiving weekend, because, like, okay, family plans, you're probably visiting family or friends, whichever. And we ran into her buddy Albert from Northern California, just kind of like just hanging out. And of course, there's me as Salem Moss with RX-78. You were cosplaying as Bright.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the end of the night, you ended up having a burger cosplaying as Bright.
Yep. So I needed something hearty, and the burger at that place sounded really good. And I was like, I don't care what I'm dressed up as, I'm eating that.
Yeah, we were kind of wandering around the convention, and something on the program guide just kind of like caught our eyes, like, Lumpia with a vengeance. I'm like, independent movie with Filipinos in it called Lumpia with a Vengeance. This can have the right amount of cheese. However, I think because, one, the line was wicked long, and I'm glad it got a packed audience. That's great that an indie film, like, about, like, Filipino Americans, especially with something like cheesy, like Lumpia with a Vengeance, that already sells itself. But, like, okay, but, you know what, the talk of, like, Lumpia is making us hungry, and since my parents didn't have Lumpia at Thanksgiving, blasphemy.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
Look, if I'm going to a Filipino household and it's a celebration, I demand lumpia and pancit.
We didn't have any of that, not even lechon.
Not even LaShawn.
And, like, okay, I think we're just better off just going to dinner, because if we're watching a movie with Lumpia in the title, Lumpia is being referenced, like, yeah, we're gonna be jonesing for some Lumpia. And I can't think of any place in the gas lamp that serves legitimate Lumpia.
No.
Not this gentrified Lumpia, but legit Lumpia.
That was the best thing, because we both got drinks with our meals, and Frosty the Snowman, the old Rankin Bass one, was on, and it's just me. You couldn't hear it because the volume was too low, but it was me just voicing the characters massively inappropriately, and it was a lot of fun. That was always one of my favorite holiday ones growing up, which is, so as an adult, it's fun to just kind of riff on it a bit.
Also, we had like just some of our table neighbors just asking us about Gundam. I was like, oh, what Gundam series should I watch? I'm like,
I've only seen the one that's like the guy that wears the mask and stuff. I'm like, yeah, Origin, yes, you've seen Origin.
There's a lot of dudes who wear masks and stuff.
Yes, but I knew we figured out what he was talking about relatively quickly. And it's like, yeah, her character shows up throughout most of the series. My character won't show up to the very end of the last episode. But it was one of those things where, being able to give someone the advice to go, oh, if you have Netflix, go and watch the movie trilogy so you can continue the story.
But yeah.
Kind of wish, like, there was more Gundam streaming at places. I've made comment about that in my robot panel, but there's a few series where I'm like, why aren't these streaming anywhere? Why is Zeta Gundam not streaming? Why is 0083 not streaming?
All right. Anything else you want to add to day one?
It was
more. I felt it was more of an exploring
the lightest
day.
day of the entire con, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people were there on Friday. I remember feeling ghost townish to some extent, and it was really weird to me because prior to the con, I was really stressed out. I have a lot of issues with crowds and stuff. I got over it, and then the pandemic happened, and now, I get, 20,000 people to con, and I'm like, okay, I need to, like, get some air. And so, I was stressed out about that and stressed about my panel on the next day. And so I remember just showing up as, like, a ball of nerves and then being like, no one's here. I feel weird. And that helped calm me down. That plus a good burger and a great drink, while making fun of Frosty the Snowman, put me in a much better mood. I don't think there was anything major we really did outside of the Gundam base on day one.
Just kind of around the dealer's hall. A lot of just kind of just getting our bearings straight of the San Diego Comic-Con Convention Center, because it's been a while, and I know it's his first time, and we wanted to also just check out his panel room.
Yeah, that's always one of my rules with a convention. Whenever I'm doing a panel there, unless I've done panels like 10 or 20 times, like, say, what's the con I'm always at?
LA Comic-Con.
I'm not... Yeah, there's cons where I just know the layout well enough at this point where I'm not too worried about it, but most conventions, I'll go and walk up. Not only do I want to just see the size of my room, I also want to see the tech setup if at all possible, because I want to be prepared for that kind of stuff. And in this location, a convention center I have never been to, or at least never been inside of, I really needed that little moment of just going and looking in the room and going like, okay, good. I have nice screens. Yeah, there's the ability to hook the computer up. This should all be good. So I was feeling a little bit more confident about that. But yes, a lot of it was just wandering, exploring. And
overall, the staff at the convention center itself was super friendly.
Yeah, wonderful staff.
I've never met staff like this so friendly in my entire convention going life.
Like, we just had conversations with door guards and stuff, and I can't even remember the last time that happened with me.
All right, let's move on to day two. So day two, we decided to go to the San Diego Cat Cafe because they were having like an event for attendees of San Diego Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
And we just decided to just take the Uber down to the Cat Cafe. It's within walking distance to the convention center. And basically for $20 you get an hour with kitties, and you also get a drink and a snacky snack.
Mm-hmm.
But most of all, you're petting kitties and you're like hanging out with kitties for an hour.
Yeah.
What was your experience like?
I was a ball of nerves because this was my panel day. So it was just kind of me, just kind of like half trapped in my own head, like sitting at the table, like sipping away at my tea, and then occasionally like getting up and petting a cat real quick, and then kind of going back to the chair. I think everyone else was having a little bit more fun than me, and I think if this had been day one, I probably would have been in a better mood. Or if my panel had been on day one, I would have been on a better mood.
We actually thought about going back on the day after.
Yeah. Because I think if I went there as not a bundle of nerves, because cats can tell, animals in general can tell when you're like stressed out and stuff. And some will be that whole, I need to give you attention because you are a human who is stressed. And others are in that category of like, your stress is making me stressed. And so I didn't get to spend time because they had, what they say, 12 cats in there or something. Mm-hmm. And I think I spent time with like 4. So that's just kind of where my experience was. But 2 of the cats really liked me because one of the cats, when I was just petting him, just started licking my hand. I'm like, aw. And then another one just went up and decided to use me as like a pillow. Like use my back as a pillow. So.
And both are black cats.
Both are black cats. Black cats like me. So.
We're getting a black cat.
And then there's an adorable orangey cat too that I liked.
Yeah. I have the photo of you with him on right there.
Yeah. So I definitely, the ones I was able to spend time with was nice. There's also a sleepy cat in like a little basket thingy that I pet a little bit, played with his tail. And generally it did help me calm down a bit. But like, yeah, it was just a bundle of nerves on Saturday and it was just, you know. But this was nice. And I do recommend this. The cats are really good. The people running it are really good. They're nice people. It's well run, so you have a little room where you can put your stuff. And, you know, it has a little, it's an antechamber. Haha, I used the right word. It's a little antechamber so you can go into the cat room so the cats can't, you know, just get lost into the main room. So it's the main room, antechamber, and then actual cat room. And yeah, so another family there when we were there, and they seemed to be having they had a very energetic child.
All right. And after going to the cat cafe, we just like walked about like 3 short blocks back to the convention center, and they had like this Peacemaker kind of a pop-up display outside the convention center. But that's something we noticed. There wasn't like a lot of the outside stuff that usually goes on during Comic-Con.
It really wasn't. There was like a couple trucks that had probably food trucks or something. There was like this, and I think I saw 1 or 2 other little standy things like this, but not much. And there was like no line. We just got up and did our pictures almost immediately.
Yeah, and you were cosplaying as Ida Tenya from My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
And I was cosplaying as Katie Chen from ShangChi.
Which, yeah, you did your whole, like, I'm going to dress up like a Marvels and stand in front of a DC's. But I did the whole, like...
I'm an anime, so I'm going to stand in front of, like, American comics.
Yes. Also, I love the idea of, like, Ida teaming up with John Cena.
Also the fact that all your cosplays were from anime at a Comic-Con.
Hey, one of those was a superhero series. One is a space opera, and the other is arguably a superhero series. He's a superhero to me. Mm-hmm. We'll get to the third costume.
So on.
Oh, you already seen it technically because we posted a picture of it earlier.
All right, day 2, I went to the Marvel cosplay meetup, and my buddy Albert told me, "Yeah, you're going to the Marvel cosplay meetup? Yeah, sure." And then it was hosted by Avengers Initiative, which I've been like coaxed to join. By a couple of my friends who cosplay from Shang-Chi. It's like, okay, let me just get my Peggy Carter cosplay in, and not
this. You can be like the Katie. Go as the Katie. What are you doing, Peggy Carter? Forget that.
I like Peggy Carter. She's
Katie.
awesome.
There's no other Katies.
This is true.
There's probably 1 or 2
there
at that
was,
gathering, I'm sure.
No, I was like the Katie at the Marvel cosplay gathering.
I saw enough cheese in order to be going and saying like, okay, yeah, this character is popular enough and has gotten his little boost that he's probably needed since the 70s. Walking around at this con and at later cons we've been to, but you're like the Katie. So I'm like, at this point, just go as the Katie. We'll make a prop bow for you, okay? It's not that big a deal. I know she didn't wear your outfit when bowing. Fine.
No, this is like the finale outfit.
Okay, this is the bow outfit. Making a longbow is not that hard.
I just want to know what the rules are for a con.
That's the bigger issue.
Because I didn't know what the rule set would be for San Diego Comic-Con, and I would feel awkward taking a bow in the Uber.
Well, one, Ethan uses a composite bow, so it's not a long bow.
We'll have to just take a look at the bow in the third act to just kind of like just see how it rolls.
It wouldn't be that hard.
And I could get my brother to go as Yanhua's character for that scene. Because he's also the bow instructor guy. And I like Yanhua, especially in Kung Fu Hustle and many of his roles. Anyway, that's just me just geeking out over Hong Kong cinema.
That's kind of a cool cameo then.
Yeah, there's a lot of cameos from a lot of Hong Kong people.
The point is, don't waste your time with Peggy Carter. Kick some ass and represent Marvel Asia. That's coming from someone who hasn't seen the movie. I'm just in that mindset of going
like, eventually, I'll have you.
Yeah, I know it's on Disney Plus and whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's fine.
But the point is, when I think of stuff, I'm like, don't be the 17th of one character. Be the one of one.
Or hey, just to like satisfy my anime weeb friends, like I guess I could go as Black Widow. Nah, I won't. Yeah, ScarJo, like the Asian person I don't like very much. Anywho,
Scarlett Johansson is an Asian.
no, the running joke in the Asian American community is like, yeah, like Scarlett Johansson is a fail Asian because of the Ghost of the Shell thing.
Oh,
Anyway,
right, yeah.
Moving
Yeah, she shouldn't
on.
have accepted that role. That's on that list of, look, this is going to be a bad idea and you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
but her agent was like, do this. You get to be action lady.
But anyway, get back to the Marvel meetup. Yeah, it was hosted by Avengers Initiative, group I'd love to join one of these days. Like, I mean, I even have 1950s Wanda ready to go too. But like, yeah, this is me just hanging out with my ShangChi cosplay friends. This is again my buddy Albert, who I've known since high school, and then there's my new friend I met, Brian, who had Morris on his shoulder, and he also had the long staff with him too. Sadly, like even though I took photos of all the Marvel cosplayers, I didn't take photos of the ShangChi group, and there was a lot of ShangChi cosplayers, and they did like all of his different outfits. Like Albert here is doing the Muni bus fight, that Jackie Chan inspired like fight sequence, and then Brian here is doing the finale version in the red leather-ish outfit. And of course I'm Katie here. I actually did meet like another Katie cosplayer who's wearing her parking valet outfit when she and ShangChi are doing valet for the Fairmont in San Francisco. And I do have a WonderCon story about that, but that's convention tea for another time. I nearly died at that hotel.
Well, I've had very positive and very negative experiences at the Fairmont, if we're talking about the San Jose one.
No, we're talking about the San Francisco one in downtown, used to be the host, used to be like the lodging hotel when WonderCon was up in San Francisco.
I avoid going to the city if at all possible.
Oh, by all means, especially nowadays.
The place is a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and I don't recommend.
Yeah, I kind of felt a little bit awkward at the Marvel meetup because like I just kind of like after like almost 2 years without like socializing, just kind of being away from like-minded people.
You're part of a charity group that does superhero stuff.
But we focus more like on charity than like socializing, and like
it's not my experience.
Anyway, but the point being is like I was in a situation where I didn't like know like anyone there. But then when I ran into Albert, it's like, okay, let's do like our martial arts stretches before we like just pose. Like, sure, let's do it. So that was a lot of fun. Just kind of like, hey, like I'm making new friends like through fandom, through here too. And there was also a Jiro cosplayer from My Hero Academia, just like taking photos of all the Marvel people. It's like, you're a hero too, Jiro. I love Jiro from My Hero Academia. So underrated. Earphones chick.
Mm.
Also Andy Lay, he also had a stunt panel at San Diego Comic-Con. And
that one was also packed.
Yeah, it was like super packed. It was also super packed too. And there's like this huge line outside of it. And it's like, dang, they gave Andy Lay and his stunt crew like a very small room. And there was like a lot of people who really wanted to go see Andy Lay. Andy Lay, he played a death dealer in Shang-Chi. And I just love that knife fight sequence like at in Madripoor. Was it Madripoor? I know it felt very Madripoor, but anyway, might as well be Madripoor at this point. But yeah, I was just kind of bummed, and me and a couple of ShangChi cosplayers, like, yeah, we're kind of bummed we couldn't get in. But the great thing about Andy Lay and his stunt team is they're like, yeah, we're gonna hang out at autographs until like the end of the evening, but we still want to come talk to you. We still want to meet you all. So like, hey, that's pretty chill. And again, there was myself and like the valet versions of the characters just kind of like just hanging out after the panel. And you did some panels too.
I did.
Do you remember which ones?
No, not at all.
You went to a horror one and you went to a tabletop
one. Oh, the tabletop one I remember because that was actually important to me. Mm-hmm. Oh God, the horror one. Oh, and was the Roddenberry one at this one?
Yes, the Roddenberry one and the Comic-Con Museum one.
That was a triple threat right there. Okay, so yes, I do remember those.
Still coming back to you.
Yeah, it is. Well, because I'm also remembering that terrible education one,
that was day one, we do not speak of that again.
I want to point out, people, there was an educators panel where they suggested that being a streamer and stuff like that is a good career goal. So, yeah. That's the level
There
of
are
educator.
skills that you can use in streaming that you can apply to other stuff.
Other stuff, yes. There's ways of taking... That's the way to approach it, is there's stuff you can do in your streaming and what have you that can apply to other things and for probably college applications to show, oh, I learned how to do this video stuff and blah, blah, blah. But no. We got the opposite. We got the person who's equal to my person I had to deal with when I was in high school, who's the whole like, well, you ever thought of just being a male stripper? No, I want to go to college. You sure? Because, male strippers make good money. You're an idiot. That was my experience. So, and the guy had horrible, messed up teeth, and I hated him. That being said, the Roddenberry panel was interesting, because I didn't quite know what to expect. There is a little Comic-Con museum over near Balboa Park, and they're doing a Roddenberry section, but I believe it's just me there, and it's interesting, because it is a lot about Star Trek, but it's more about his life, and they have a whole little tunnel thing you can walk through that leads into the big room that has props and this and that. Information about his life going all the way back to when he served in World War II on the Enterprise as a pilot. And, obviously through his career's ups and downs and craziness. His son was there, who told some really fun stories. And then one of the other people from Roddenberry Entertainment was there who was not quite as beloved as Roddenberry's son. Maybe because of the last 3 television projects they've had. And 4? Might be 4 at this point. God knows how many they're making and no one watches them. But the museum itself was significantly more interesting than anything else there, because I was like, I want to go there. They're like, oh, we had a Pac-Man section where they had a real life sized Pac-Man maze you could go through, and I'm like, I want to do that.
Yeah, let's make a day trip out of it. I'd be down.
I want to go there. So it's like, I'd hope they would get stuff from say Robert E. Howard and get stuff from the other major pulp writer. I would like to see stuff like that in there. The pulp writer era kind of stuff would be great. I would hope they would get some stuff from the older superhero movies, obviously like the Keaton Batmans and stuff like that. I'd love to see those kinds of things. Who knows what they're going to get in there, but it was a little more interesting. And in, the stories of oh, my dad was doing this and that, and that's cool. And hearing about his dad, because I always talk about that in my Final Fantasy panel. I talk about the Enterprise. I talk about its connection to, of course, Star Trek. And I didn't realize Roddenberry served on the Enterprise. I thought he served on a different ship and then wrote the Enterprise. No, the Enterprise is his ship. He was a fighter pilot there. He fought alongside McCluskey and all those other guys, and that's freaking awesome. Anyhow, the second panel was it wasn't really a horror panel. It was about villains. And it was, interesting, I guess. They had some actors in there, some writers in there, and a producer guy in there. They just kind of talked about what makes villains good. And I agreed with some of it. I disagreed with a lot of it. But it was at least food for thought. They're really not... As a person who knows mythology, there's a lot of things about villainy that modern people don't get. Ideas of the elemental evil really has just disappeared. This is essentially evil for the sake of evil. To put this into perspective, if you go back to the original Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent is an elemental evil. She is just evil for the sake of being evil. She doesn't need a backstory that's tragic or whatever.
Oh God, you did tell me about this panel.
She just wants to hurt things because evil is fun and she has all the powers of hell at her command. Versus the modern take, which is, oh, she was treated badly, so it's okay that she does terrible things. And the answer to that is no. It's still not okay. Being treated terribly is not justification for being a horrible person. In fact, if anything, you're supposed to rise above that. And that makes a more interesting character. Naruto is treated like garbage as well. He rose above it and became Hokage. Which I pronounced wrong, but whatever.
Kevin McAllister.
Rose above it and became a hero. That's what you're supposed to do. So, but there's also the fallen, type villain. Obviously, the one who could have been a good person, but just life is just mean to you. And you have those. Game of Thrones is full of characters like that who could have been good people, but then life just decided to knock you down. But they're not viewed as, oh, they're allowed to do horrible things. You're like, no, you could have been a good person. Why did you take that choice? And they didn't really separate that. So from their perspective, stuff like the Maleficent movies were good. When I'm like, no, because it doesn't work either way. You can't make her a fallen because they're trying to make her a heroine for some reason. And you can't make her an elemental because she has reasoning behind her madness. And talking about things like that, they got into the charisma of the villain, but didn't really explore it properly. So there's like, oh yeah, I love it when there's good-looking actors. I'm like, no. The reason why people like Loki is that not only is Hiddleston a good actor, but the character is done in the Marvel universe, not in the movie universe, not the comics. Well, now the comics, I guess, because they just turned him into Tom Hiddleston. But he was originally, this more evil and chaos like the god in the mythology because Jack Kirby. And the version they did for the movies was the more charismatic, the smooth talking devil who's just going to go and say like, no, you should do evil. I should be the ruler, right? Look how good looking and nice I am. You want to put the crown on my head, don't you? That kind of stuff. And it works for those movies, but no one is going into like the deeper meaning of what villainy is. Villains aren't heroes, and for some reason we've gotten to this weird phase, especially in Hollywood, but we've gotten in novels and video games too, where villains equal heroes. Villains are not heroes. Villains go around murdering people and doing terrible stuff, and they should be viewed as such. And at the end, they got into talking about like making the irredeemable villain, where it's the evil emperor who just goes and slaughters a town because they're bored. And I'm like, yeah, again, elemental evil. There's not some terrible backstories to why this evil emperor decides to just murder people. He just does. It's a whim. I'm evil. I enjoy it. And it was interesting hearing from a writer's perspective of like how do you keep the villain in the background like still relevant to the heroes and ways of doing that, and how to not make the minions feel like villain of the week and instead actually make them feel like something more. And that was interesting. But it was just a real mess of a panel that could have been done better if it had probably different people up there. The actors, it was fun hearing them talk about how they like playing villains, and that's cool. But like, I could have gone with the thing made up of writers, both comic and novel and movie, and a really good moderator who could then get them to say, well, when writing a villain, what do you do? And then possibly throw a professor type or someone who really knows mythology really well, like me. Not that I'm going to say that I should be the guy, but if I was, I'm not against it. Up there to talk about the mythological aspects of villainy and why it means so much to us, why we have a draw to some of these evil characters in our mythology. Prior to the Maleficent movie, tons of ladies dressed up like Maleficent. There's a reason for that. I could go on for hours about it. We will get on to the next and final panel, which is about tabletopping. It was all these independent people talking about, working in board games, card games, things like that, their experiences. A huge warning to people to not use crowdfunding because it is succeeding, and not getting a massive ulcer out of the whole process is incredibly difficult. I know I was going to put a game up on there and I kept stopping because I was trying to just get all the financial maths together, and it's really not my forte. And it just kept being delayed, and then eventually they're like, yeah, don't do that if it's not like the thing you can do, because you're just going to overstress yourself, not have fun, and you're not going to be thinking about your next project. While, there's other ways of getting your game out there and still thinking about your new projects. And so that kind of re-inspired me to work in, tabletop related stuff. I've already been working out new rules, and hopefully we'll be streaming some of them soon.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, no,
I rest right there. Yeah. And then, you decide to just kind of just chill for a bit. And I decide, there's no line for Andy Lay. So, let me just chit-chat with him. And, I decided, it's 6 o'clock in the evening. Let's just chit chat. And I was just talking to his buddies about I got into virtual training martial arts virtually because of the pandemic. Been talked about my experience with Southeast martial arts, Muay Thai, Filipino martial arts, Silat, Kali, and we just got into this really good geek conversation while waiting for my turn to get my thing signed and take selfies with Andy Lay. And then Andy just kind of just does this whole huh? Wait, I hear martial arts, and we just kind of just get into this deep conversation about it, and it's just one of those things that I just really enjoy. I'd imagine I wouldn't be able to have this kind of conversation at a normal San Diego Comic-Con, but just being able to just talk to an actor in the MCU who more or less has the supporting and villain part, this was gold. I mean, I'm glad we were able to take photos. We actually geeked out over Disney together. Not that he works for Disney. He saw that I have my phone here. I did have my phone here, which is the Haunted Mansion, when his buddy was taking a photo of the two of us. Oh my God, you love Disney too? Yeah, I love Disney. I love the Haunted Mansion. So we're just kind of geeking that out over a little bit until like the next group came in to just like wanting to chit chat, just wanting to just take selfies. So that was like one of my favorite experiences at a Comic-Con special edition. Just kind of like just having like this hangout time with like guests of this kind of caliber.
Kind of reminds me of what like the old local sci-fi cons used to be like, where there weren't a lot of people, so if you wanted to really talk to Burt Ward or Adam West or something like that, you'd get that level of people. You're not going to get like, big names. And I'm talking like the 90s. No one cared about Adam West in the 90s.
Another observation I've noticed about the autograph lines is I noticed that anime voice actors, American anime voice actors, got a huge line.
Oh, yes.
They had like a huge line. I'm just looking at these other science fiction authors who, in my defense, I haven't heard them either, but like they're just kind of like just sitting at their table. It's like, please pay attention to me.
Yeah, I have one friend who's into
so bad about
like
that.
Obscure sci-fi books, and I'm like, yeah. And I think I'd be the same way if I was like, because even for me, like unless the name is like Kevin J. Anderson or Timothy Zahn or something like that, I'm not going to stop by an author's booth either. So as a writer, I'm also just guilty of that.
Because I think also some of the hardcore sci-fi authors, they were over at LosCon in Los Angeles.
Yes, which happened the same weekend. So it's bad luck for them, I think. Although they go for kind of a different audience, because again, said
LosCon is like a more like a boomer retirement home geek.
Where they really need to make sure everyone is vaccinated and what have you, because otherwise that could just be a killing zone. But my friend who I talked about who does like the books and is like the obscure authors, he went to that one instead, where here he would have had 0 lines and would just been going to each one, talking to them, saying like, I liked this one, I read it, when da 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 da. And I'm like, oh, yeah, dude, that's your thing. And I could be that way with comic people. All my comic people I liked are old mans. Who are like, in my day, we drew comics of 4 colors. What's this 5-6 color garbage? Like that's like the people who did my old comics. So.
Hey, Chris Claremont's gonna be at Comic-Con Revolution next
Speaking
weekend.
of old men, yes. In my day, Logan and Jean were shipped, and I liked it.
And Timothy Zahn, one of my favorite authors, is going to be at Comic-Con Revolution. So who are we to speak on this?
The first time I met him was at Comic-Con Revolution. So,
all right.
And he's like, back in my day, there was a blue man who led the empire named Thrawn, and we liked it.
And I still like it.
We still like it, sir.
All right. So just kind of wrapping up day 2. How did the panel go? I was moderating.
So, yes, me the entire time being a ball of nerves and stressed and worried to the point that like I had to be reminded of what panels I went to. Very, very large audience. I'd say, 2/3 of the room full?
Yeah, about 2/3.
And
it was consistent.
It was consistent.
Not a lot of people left.
Yeah, it just wasn't one of those like, I'm going to come here for 10 minutes and he's not.
Because this also took place at the same time as Masquerade. And I wanted to check out Masquerade because Comic-Con always has like top tier Masquerade. They always have like top tier like hostesses. I know like one year they had Mr. Lobo from like one of my favorite science fiction show host guys. But we had a pretty good audience for like a Saturday evening.
And panel went well. I had done a redesign on it last year apparently, which I modified a little bit more because I wanted to change some of the names that were in there and who I was going to talk about. And afterwards I had a whole load of people come up to me and ask questions and talk about stuff, including people wanting me to start doing mythology videos. So I'm like, okay, I'll start doing those. I think my favorite comment is one of the Comic-Con staff was like, there's very few panels that can reference World War I, World War II, and Darmok and Gilad at Chahada, which is a Star Trek The Next Generation thing. And I'm like, yeah, because all those things somehow tied into Final Fantasy characters, weapons, and what have you. So it went really, really well. It really boosted my confidence because I haven't really, yes, at Otakon I was in front of an audience and stuff, but Otakon's Otakon. This is, to me, feels like this is the big leagues. And no offense to Otakon, I love you, you're great. But when you grow up in California, there's a bit of a prestige to being at San Diego Comic-Con. And even if this was the smaller version, I was still at San Diego Comic-Con. Now when people see my list of panels I've done and where I've done them, it will say San Diego Comic-Con. And they're going to look at that going like, oh, this guy's good. And I'm like, I'm not just good. I'm the best.
And yeah, here's our photo post presenting. Like, I served as moderator, clicky person, and and there's you.
And I went beyond,
Zeta,
so it was
plus
great.
Ultra.
Yeah.
All right, day 3. It's like day 3. There's just a few things to talk about here. Day 3 was relatively light. So for day 3, we just focused in on like using Artist Alley and the Dealer's Hall to shop for things. One of our favorite artists had to peace out early because their wife had food poisoning, and like, we wanted to get this Wild Stallions poster.
Mm-hmm. We were going around grabbing some Christmas presents and what have you, and a lot of the time you just go, we'll just grab it on day 3 because we can just put it right in the car and head home. No big deal. We don't want to worry about it,
Their booth is gone?
The booth is gone. And we're like, what? No. And look, if my panel hadn't been at like 7 o'clock, we probably just would have grabbed stuff Saturday night. And then, when we headed back to the hotel, it'd be no big deal because we're going to pack Saturday night anyways. But in your mind, you just go, well, we'll just do it tomorrow. Not that big a deal. And we had our people marked on a little list of what booths we're going to go back to. And we went there and we're like, no, you had this cool, like, what's the right word for them? Like a scholastic kind of art style.
I love Golden Book art style.
Yeah, a little bit of a Golden Book art style too, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, sad face. And unfortunately, they weren't even at LA Comic Con because I even tried looking out for their booth and I was following their social. God, they're not even at LA Comic Con.
Yeah.
But they have an Etsy store, but it's still not the same as like just buying it in person, just actually looking at the art and like talking to the artists and just kind of telling them like, yeah, we like getting unique gifts for friends, and artists like you just really make convention so special because like you can buy like a unique piece of art that you can't get anywhere else, and you can give that as a gift to someone, especially nowadays when you have like the whole like shipping situation and it's really hard to get things. Like I was at the Lego store the other day and like, oh yeah, that set looks cool, is it available? Like it's in the container shipping in the ocean somewhere. Yep.
Yeah.
And the supply shortage is real, people, and people like to deny it for some reason. But day 3 was it was relatively light, just walking around the dealer's hall, just taking photos with just some of the photo standees there. I was cosplaying as Tressay from the anime on Netflix, Tressay, and you were cosplaying from Way of the House Husband.
Also on Netflix.
You were representing Netflix.
It was great.
Invite us to your premieres.
Yeah.
But anywho, day 3, like we're just kind of walking outside, and there was also a lot of sparring going on with Amp Guard and just Ren Fair groups, and like it was just kind of cool to see like just people just like do like the foam fighting. 'Cause I actually dated someone in college that started like a club like this on our college campus, and they really get into it. They come up with personal backstories, different factions. And he even started a Star Wars version too, and like he was like, okay, yeah, this is my Sith Lord and stuff, and like like people just get really into it. And I'm just looking at it, like, I miss going to Ren Fair because I haven't gone to Ren Fair in like over a decade and a half. Can you believe that? But
it's probably been longer for me. Mm-hmm. Since junior high.
So. Yeah, it was just kind of cool seeing these. And I know you wanted to do tabletop gaming, and we kind of wandered the gaming hall. What was that like?
Okay, the gaming hall was
It's literally a hall. It's literally like
a hallway of multiple rooms. The PC people were constantly looking for new people, and they were just like, yeah, come on, join our tournament. And I'm like, and then they said the name of the game, and I don't remember what it is now. It was a game I'd never heard of before, and I was like, I probably shouldn't just be a greenhorn going directly into a tournament, but thank you. The video game room, they had, you could essentially not rent, but whatever, you got the stuff from them and brought them, set it up. There weren't a lot of people in there. The tabletop room was packed. That whole online thing, and I went and downloaded it and everything. I was trying to create a character. I got really frustrated and said, screw it. And it was actually Sunday morning. I woke up early, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a Barbarin. So I made myself a Barbarin, and I was feeling really good about myself. And I was like, I'm not going to worry about checking the online thing to see if there's any slots open, because, come on, it's Sunday morning. Who's going to want a game in Sunday? Everybody. They had a waiting list of 23 people. I'm like, do you want me to add your name? I'm like, I'm good. Because even if they got some more DMs or whatever, 23 people at about 4, I think mostly at these things, they need about 6 people a table. We're going to need at least 4 DMs to make this possible. So, not impossible that 4 DMs would have shown up. Super highly unlikely. And yes, there are probably people who signed up for something and then aren't going to show up as well. But again, that's still 3 or 4 extra DMs if I'm ever going to get a chance. And I was like, nah, it's fine. I'll wander the con and what have you. But I like the online sign-up thing. I'm actually kind of curious to search that because they had a few that were just like online games. And I'm like, could I just join someone else's online game? Because I'd be down with that. I'm just tired of DMing. So occasionally I like to play a character. And having a place where I can test out, like, oh, I have this barbarian I've never been able to use. I want to use it. Or I have this warlock I've always wanted to try. And I want to just have a game wherein I can do that because you can make your theoretical character. You can write up the character sheet and everything. But until the character's in action, you're never going to know if this is a good build or not.
Okay. And I think just kind of just going around the dealer's hall, we found some amazing presents for family members, but we won't spoil what they are because we might have just one family member watching this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also decide to give blood.
Yes. This was a terrible idea. Now, first off, I want people to know the charity I care the most about is, strangely enough, Red Cross and blood donations. Yeah, I know, everyone would think it'd be the something to do with visual impairment. No, it's blood donations. Blood donations is something done by everyone. Anyone can do this unless you have very specific health conditions. Everyone can donate. And whether you're giving A, B, or the superior O, like myself, you're still helping someone. And unfortunately, going on day 3 when I'm exhausted and stressed out after just, running around a convention all day was not the time to do it. They had to literally pull me out of the... filling out the paperwork was a pain, and I believe I got some stuff wrong. I really probably should contact the Red Cross about that so I can get that properly in my information. Otherwise, they're going to keep bugging me about donating when I can't. But more importantly, they had to do when they did my blood pressure, like, oh, your blood pressure is really bad right now. And I'm like, my blood pressure is never bad. Like, even when I'm feeling like stressed or sick, my blood pressure is usually pretty good. And that tells you like how burned out I was by that point in the event. If I'd done it Sunday morning first thing, I think it wouldn't have been an issue. Had I done it Saturday, would have been terrible. Had I done it on Friday, I probably would have been fine. But Sunday, end of con, that was a terrible idea. I'm glad I donated. I need to stop donating at cons, but it's one of the easier times for me to do it, primarily because I'm there. And I can't easily go and say, oh, well, let me go try to figure out where my local center is and what have you. It's right there. It's in front of me. So that worked out decently well in the end. I gave the blood. My recovery was long because one had been, over a year since I'd last donated. And I felt very wobbly, and between the exhaustion of the con and the getting my blood drained out of me, they wanted, and of course I'm on the O, so they always want to do the heavier one where I give 2 pints, and I'm like, that's a terrible idea for so many reasons. Even if I'm sleeping on the car ride home, it's still a terrible idea. But the staff was really nice and friendly. They worked with me, helped me a little bit due to the visual impairment stuff, and they also helped me a little bit with getting me to the table, getting me food. They even got her out of the waiting room to help me out, which was really nice. So I'm going to recommend this. Just make sure to set it right in your schedule where you're not going to be too worn out or you're not going to be too busy the rest of the day, because the last thing you want to do is like when I donated blood and then had to run 2 panels, I think. But that was also the same day I got to hang out with Rob Liefeld, so, that was pretty sweet. He gave me a comic book because he liked my wig.
Yeah, and I think after that, we decided to just leave San Diego, just take an Uber back to the hotel. And then we ran into some fog going back up. I knew because it was also holiday weekend, there's going to be a little bit of traffic going up. But it was weird because once you cross the San Diego county line to the OC county line, it's free-flowing traffic.
Yeah.
It was just weird because, okay, we're all stuck here, but we're just moving faster when we're in Orange County. Is everyone just slowing down to see the nuclear boobs?
It's also, off-ramps and stuff to other locations from there, too, that will get them onto different freeways that go different directions, but I don't know. I was asleep most of the time.
Yeah, well, we decided to just have dinner over in Aliso Viejo just to grab some ramen.
Which I really needed, because my body really needed, the salt and stuff like that to just repair
ramen
itself.
Sounds good right now, too.
It really
real
does.
ramen. And
Yes.
plus, it was a ramen place that had takoyaki, and it had potato croquettes. I've been missing this.
And I really
should go there for
needed
lunch
that
right
after
now.
giving blood, yeah.
And the place is called I-20 Ramen in Aliso. So if you're in South County, highly recommend. But yeah, let's see. Yeah, here's us just leaving the convention right here before you were donating blood and us representing Netflix anime unintentionally. Netflix, please invite us to your premieres. We'll say stuff about it. All right, final thoughts on San Diego Comic-Con Special Edition.
Overall, I wish I knew ahead of time how much more relaxed it would have been, because I probably wouldn't have been so stressed out.
I don't think anyone knew what it was going to be like, because this was a scaled down Comic-Con. We didn't really know if this was going to have like a huge Hollywood presence, Hall H kind of feel to it, but it felt like it just felt like just your standard Comic-Con, but with like just lesser people and a larger anime presence, which I can't complain about. I do appreciate that there was like an independent like artist section apart from Artist Alley, where you can actually just talk to like independent comic book creators. And I was able to just pick up a couple of things from them. I finally got my graphic novel edition of Boston Metaphysical Society. I was able to talk to them for a bit. I even got the prequel novel to that one too. So like I'm very excited to finally just read Boston Metaphysical Society, because I've been following them since we were living in Boston. I'm like, hey, this sounds pretty neat. And then I got to just hang out with my friends over in Dewata Comics, and I just kind of bought some merchandise that ties in with their current comic. And I'm really glad that there is actually, for the first time in Comic-Con history, that there is a Filipino comic, and their company is actually bringing in over Filipino comics for English localization. So I'm very excited that there actually is something like that too. And it also did make me happy that there was a line for Lumpia with a Vengeance. Now I'm curious to check it out, and I think I was reading, like, yeah, did you see the first one? I'm like, wait, this is a film franchise?
I didn't know that either.
Like, yeah, Lumpia with a Vengeance. Like, did you see the first one? Like, this is a sequel? What?
Better be from the 90s. It's called Lumpia with an Attitude. It's just a Lumpia with a backwards cap and a skateboard.
All right, and yeah, there is me just with a joke of me cosplaying as Katie, who's played by Aquafina, taking a selfie with an Aquafina. All right, any other final thoughts on Comic-Con Special Edition,
I'll be honest
Jay?
here, if they kept this and also had their summer one to just be the over-the-top one, and then this was still around, I would totally go to this every fall.
I would go to this like every
panels,
November.
I would have a lot of fun, and I would be like, yay, 1/3 the crowd of the main one. I'm down with that.
Yeah, I'm much more likely to go to a Comic-Con Special Edition than like regular big size Comic-Con, because the last time I'd been in 2008, I was just way too overwhelmed by the crowd. There was like so many people going on the train, and like just so many restaurants being filled up where it was impossible to get a table. You and I were able to walk into Spaghetti Factory Saturday evening, get a table, no problem. And I was just kind of like just looking back at like my past visits to San Diego Comic-Con and just horror stories that I had forgot existed. Like the fact I couldn't get into my hotel room because my hotel mates were very anal about like keeping the key from us, which was like, yeah, that's a red flag.
Yes.
But overall, I really enjoyed Comic-Con Special Edition. And likewise, if Comic-Con, for whatever reason, in the future decides to do like, hey, let's just kind of like do a Comic-Con Special Edition type of show that's much more relaxed and fall time, like I'd be down for that. I mean, yeah. I like talking to the people who are like just like on the independent comic side, because I thought like, yeah, like I'm more likely to buy independent comics and buy from them when I talk to them, when they tell me about like how they came up with this story, and you're kind of building a relationship with your creators. That way, and you kind of feel like you're just really part of it too, rather than just being like just another number who's buying something. And I say this like, yeah, I like manga, but at the same time, it's like I also like supporting independent creators.
It's one of the reasons why like Indiegogo independent comics have done well, because if they have a place where they can post their videos of, hey, check out the art I drew today, and that says and you have the thing where you can feel like you have a more personal interaction with the creative staff, whether it's one person or 3 people or whatever, gives you a more reason to support the series and hang with it, because they're it's a mutual relationship. The creator needs the audience needs the creator. So
it's not just a book that you bought off like Barnes and Nobles. It's a book that like you bought directly from the creator after talking to them about the whole thing
and hearing their passion and how much they actually care about their characters versus mainstream comics where you usually don't get. Honestly, I can't even think of like the last time I've heard an interview or anything like that with a writer or artist of a comic who's super like, oh my gosh, this is the character that inspired me as a kid, and seeing the artwork of such and such who was originally the artist for the series and taking over that you don't hear those stories versus if this you'll hear the whole like, oh, I always wanted a hero who was like this or that, or I wanted to do something more, not superhero, but I still wanted to make it a comic, and I can do that as an indie, and I can't really do that mainstream so much. And I can fully see where people really fall in love. I don't mean that in like a romantic way. I mean it like in a like loving, a film franchise or a video game franchise. I can see where that love happens because you have that passionate person there explaining to you why they love their book and why you should love their book.
Okay, I think we're in agreement that, Comic-Con, if you want to do more of these types of shows, smaller, scaled-down versions, you bet we'll be willing to do panels. We'll probably stay closer to the gas lamp because, not going to lie, Uber does add up.
Yeah, it does. Being able to walk across the street, more or less, and going to the Hilton would be nice.
All right, so that's that with our take on Comic-Con Special Edition. Please visit our website, scarlet-rhapsody.com, for more convention stuff and things. And if you like what you hear, support our Ko-Fi, Scarlet Rhapsody. We'd love to, whatever you donate to us can help pay for parking, help pay for gas, help pay for hotels. All right, our next episode is going to be Los Angeles Comic-Con. We got stories on that one, so
yes, we do.
Stay tuned for that one.
That'll be a good one. That'll be a good episode.
Hey, this episode was pretty good too.
Yes, it was.
All right. We will see you at the con.